everybody? We're back talking some more Bel-Air on the channel with episode 6 airing this week on Peacock. Gotta say, last week's episode, it was pretty intense, especially when it comes to the big dramatic segments between Will and Trey. As we saw by the end of the episode, they had a pretty big falling out. This week's episode, it's a bit more mellow. Not by a large margin or anything, but this episode is mostly predominantly focused on a big fundraising event at the Banks house centered around Lisa's mom. This episode, episode 6, it wasn't one of my favorite episodes of the season so far. I'm much more mixed on it than anything else. I don't think it's just a downright bad episode. It's just an episode that kind of feels all over the place because despite the entire episode being set basically in one location, the Banks' house, there's a bit too much going on because there's practically every character you've seen in the show, and pretty much everybody in this house is juggling some form of plot line, and some of them are a bit better than others. One major takeaway all around from this episode that I really enjoyed is just the fact that this episode is a great showcase of just how good the family is when it comes to having each other's back. No matter what big drama is going on in this household between the family members, it is something that really shines through in this episode, and it's just a nice thing to see in a show like this. It's something we see all throughout the episode, like how we open the episode with Will still upset over the stuff with Trey, the roasting him online, calling him a snake, pretty much giving him the Kevin Durant treatment. Like, that's all I could equate it to. It was really messed up. That's what made it so good, though, when Uncle Phil does come in to try his best to comfort him in the situation, give him guidance, show him some parental love, because he's never had a father figure. Not that all of his love and focus is centered around just Will specifically, because we see him give that same love and affection to all the other kids, even Carlton, because Carlton starts acting up later on in the episode. I know that's very shocking that Carlton once again starts acting crazy, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Once the fundraiser event itself gets going, it very much is all over the place. Some good elements, some not as much, like I said before. Seeds were practically already planted in these last couple episodes, but I'm pretty much just saying it's a war, it's a feud now between the Banks family and Lisa's family. As the tension between the two families does very much boil over in this episode, it's just unfortunate because of the fact that Will and Lisa are kind of stuck in the crosshairs on both sides of this feud. I guess Carlton is in a way also stuck in this feud, but he's a terrible person. He's being a weirdo in this episode because of the fact he is still hanging that threat over Will's head, trying to keep him away from Lisa, watching over Will's shoulder anytime Lisa and Will even talk at all. I mean, he's literally on the balcony at one point, staring down at them, trying to have a conversation with another. It's pretty weird, and it causes him to spiral because they keep talking to each other. As these episodes progress and we do see more of Lisa's family, I do think it is intentional, but I am liking their family less and less. They seem like pretty terrible people. Other than Lisa, I think Lisa is a great character. But as we learn more about Lisa's dad and how he wasted no time getting with this new woman after Gail passed away, and then the fact that we later on realized that they were canoodling even before Gail passed away, thanks to Angela telling Vivian about these stories about stuff they did in the past, and the dates don't line up, the timeline is all over the place here. They were hooking up a year before Gail passed away. The math ain't mathin'. You should have just not brought up that story at all. It'd be one thing if Angela was at least a semi-decent person, somewhat likable, understanding of the situation centering around Gail. But she's not. She's a very irritating character, extremely self-centered. That's like the takeaway I took from this character. At certain points, kind of just trying to make everything at the event about her whenever she can, which kind of made me feel bad for Lisa in all of this because she has to deal with her as her, I guess, stepmom. They might not get a lot of screen time in these episodes of Bel-Air, but I think some of the unsung heroes of the cast are all of Vivian's friends, because I think they're pretty funny, even in their short little bursts of energy they do have in these episodes. They're very thirsty in this episode, thirsting over Jeffrey, who actually is here in this episode. He actually does appear. I don't know where he was last episode, but he is back now. Plus, they also thirst over Michael Ealy's character Reed because he's at the mansion for the fundraiser. I mean, he's a very thirsty character in his own right because he seems to really be interested in Vivian, and that does continue on in this episode. They really do kick it up a notch, though, with his character and his whole flirting, because he's sneaking around the house, looking at Vivian's art, continuing to hype her up about her art and making deals with her to get her paintings in his gallery. I mean, Phil is onto it right away. I mean, you can just tell by the way he storms into the room and kind of just stops everything dead in his tracks, and the way that he talks to Michael Ealy. I am intrigued to see where we're going to go with this stuff with Reed, because we do see that Phil is having him looked into by Jeffrey, because Jeffrey's doing a bunch of recon in this episode. Jeffrey's a scary guy. I don't really get a good feel of this character so far, but all I know is he's very intimidating, and the fact that Phil is the one who anonymously bid on the paintings. So I don't know what the whole endgame is here. It kind of feels like at this point I'm beating a dead horse, because I'm not really feeling this whole Hillary influencer stuff. When we do focus on other stuff besides the influencer stuff with Hillary, I think that stuff is great, but there is a big emphasis on the influencer stuff here because she's trying to help out Vivian make the food at her party, her fundraiser. However, the guy that's in charge of that influencer house that she's staying at is pestering her about making content. His name's Kylo. Just, I don't know why his name's Kylo. I mean, the only Kylo I know, I guess, now is him and Kylo Ren. Everything else with Hillary is pretty good, though. Like, when she's helping Ashley try and flirt with her little crush because she came over for the fundraiser event. It gets awkward pretty quickly, though, because she mentions that she has a crush on somebody. Ashley, of course, is hoping that it's her, but this little girl has a crush on Will. Definitely a heartbreaker there, but it is kind of relatable. I feel like we've all, at least at one point in our lives, really liked somebody, and then they end up liking either your best friend or someone you're related to. So it's realistic in that sense. I'm not even entirely sure where we're going with this entire angle with Hillary as an influencer. It just kind of feels directionless, even when we get to the end of the episode and she's spicing up her cooking videos by showing some skin. I don't really know the direction we're going here. I mean, more power to Coco Jones, because I think she is doing a good job as the character, but I'm not really feeling those storylines here, I'm sorry. Same thing kind of goes for Carlton, because I alluded to it a little bit earlier, how he had a downward spiral as he's seeing Lisa talk to Will again. He starts doing drugs once again, and Will catches him in the act. I don't really know how I feel, because it's just such a weird angle to take Carlton as a character, having him be this drug addict, you know, filled with anxiety. But there was a bit of sadness here swirling around it because of the fact he does break down when he's confronted by Will. Will even sits there and comforts Carlton, despite how Carlton's been to him this entire series. Obviously, in this condition, Carlton cannot go out there and read that whole poetry thing they were talking about with Lisa later, so it was nice to see Will have to step in. It was a quick scene, but it was a nice little poetry reading dedicated to her mother. It was sweet. It's just unfortunate that Angela afterwards has to try and ruin it, but it was very satisfying seeing Vivian tell her off at the end. The way that we cap off the episode, in particular the beef between the Banks family and Lisa's family, it hits its crescendo here because we find out that Lisa's dad is going to be entering the political race to take on Uncle Phil. So it's going to be a political battle now, not just a battle just of words. We're going to go to the political stage. I guess that's going to be fun. Not as much fun for Lisa and Will. It's very much a war of the families here, almost a Hatfields and McCoy, because they do inevitably make up at the end of the episode, and we end the episode with them kissing, which is great because I like Lisa and Will as characters. It's just everything around them is going to come crashing down because both sides are going to war. Definitely one of the big storylines going forward that I'm intrigued to see how it progresses. Same the stuff with Michael Ealy's character, especially with Jeffrey doing recon on him. I'm worried for him now. He's in danger if Jeffrey's got some recon going on, because we saw what happened in Philadelphia. I'm assuming that he's behind that, but I'm not 100% certain. Either way, all around, it was a decent episode, so make sure you share your thoughts down below when you do check out the episode. I think it should be on Peacock fairly soon. I don't remember the release schedule for these episodes. Sometimes it's like early in the morning, sometimes it's like mid-afternoon. I'm not really sure. I don't program Peacock. I don't know how that stuff works. Regardless, once you see the episode, make sure you share your thoughts down below. It's for the fun of having that conversation with you guys in the comments section. Thank you guys always check out the reviews. I really appreciate that. Make sure to like on the video. Also subscribe to the channel so if you have new distractions, unboxings, and more. For the next time, I'll see you guys later.